What's good, meaningful movers? Welcome back to Moving with Meaning, the podcast where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. We aren't going to waste time on an intro. Let's get back into Amanda Blackwood's story. We left off with Amanda escaping her first human trafficking event, evading her ex-husband, and now rejected by her paternal stepfather. Let's go.
Cry a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't care if I was ugly.
Yeah.
So I sat there on a grassy hill next to the payphone and I sobbed my eyes out. And like I said, it's like 10:30 at night, it's Daytona Beach, Florida. Lots of homeless people there. And they started kind of crowding around and hanging out in that general area. I didn't care. They're milling about me. They're sitting down next to me. They're completely ignoring me otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care. And I was sitting there for a little while when another bus pulled up, and it came from New York. All the people got off, and there was a young man and a young lady who looked over and saw me, and they walked over to me from the bus. He was in his early to mid-20s. She looked 18. She was actually 15. I didn't know right away. And this young couple told me, "We've got a place where you can stay until you can get on your feet. Come and stay with us." What they meant was, we got a place where you can stay until we find the highest bidder. Come and stay with us until we can find him and get paid. And they sold me for $90 to a guy named Esteban.
Oh,
My whole life.
You mean not for the night, for like...
Yeah, my whole life.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I stayed with them for a couple of weeks before it got to that point. It's a wild, twisted story. That was actually the first book I ever wrote and published. It's called Detailed Pieces of a Shattered Dream. That title perfectly describes what it was that I had planned out. You know, I was going to have this great life. I was going to go work on this horse farm, which I had this true passion for doing. I was going to be healed. I was going to get to know my grandmother. I had all of these beautiful dreams working for this incredible boss who was the first person to reach out with honesty and help. And all of that was taken away from me in one instant.
Yeah.
We're not coming to get you. You're on your own. Good luck.
Crazy. Why say good luck at the end of that? That ain't make no damn sense. Golly.
Yeah. That was my dad's stepfather.
Yeah.
He had no blood ties to me. He and my father never got along. He cared nothing about me.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that's why he was the one who answered the phone. My grandmother might have caved.
Yeah. I believe that.
Yeah.
God. So Esteban came and got you.
I was locked up in a small room with no food, no water, no bathroom facilities for 23 and a half hours before I got out.
Girl,
Yeah, people gotta pee, right?
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, my God. I assume that was to break you. I don't know. So he let you out.
He did not.
How'd you get it?
I grew up watching MacGyver in the 80s and 90s, and I was, for many years, madly in love with Richard Dean Anderson. Man saved my life. Growing up watching TV in the 80s literally saved my life. I asked, what would MacGyver do? And I got out.
Huh. Can you share?
Well, I don't want to go into too much details because it is in the book and it's really well written.
Okay.
But when I did get out, he chased me. Right to a cop.
Okay.
And the cop thought I was insane. She wasn't going to lift a finger to help me. She was so confused about what was going on. And then she saw this guy doing a U-turn in his car illegally, and she went after him for that.
Wow.
Yeah. But I never went back to see if anybody else that was held in that same building was ever released. And I had some pretty major survivor's guilt for that. I never watched the news to see if this guy was arrested, to see if his name would show up. I didn't know anything about what happened to him after that. This was 1999. So this is well before human trafficking was really a phrase that was being thrown around.
Right.
I thought this was kidnapping.
Yeah.
In reality, if we think about it in very basic terms, this was slavery.
Yes, very much. That's what's been on my mind the entire conversation. So she chased him, never caught him apparently, came back to you.
Nope, she never came back to me because I wasn't there.
Okay.
I wasn't going to stick around. I don't know if she even came back to look for me. I didn't care to stick around to find out. I split.
Oh, man.
I went from one place to another and bounced around. I was homeless. I worked around the clock 24 hours a day, and that's not an exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
For a little while, I was working as a telephone operator. So when people used to dial 411 for directory assistance, you didn't have the internet at your fingertips. You'd call it, and I would say, "What listing, please?" And you would say something like, I don't know, Sears. And I'd say, "What city and state, please?" And then I would put you through to the automated system that would read off the telephone number to you and connect you.
Okay.
It was really easy.
Okay. Yeah.
So I did that from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. When I left there at 4, I would start working at Sears at 4:30. I'd work there until 10:30 at night. I got to know one of the security guards there at Sears, and I started borrowing his car when I got off work at 10:30, and I would deliver pizzas until 2 a.m. That same security guard later on decided that he was going to start doing some like late night classes and stuff that started at 2 a.m. and led out at like 7 a.m. But he needed somebody to watch his kid, and I had a place to stay.
Oh.
I moved in as the overnight nanny and was keeping an eye on the little guy while he was sleeping, which meant that I got to sleep.
Yeah.
And I was getting paid to sleep.
Yeah.
And I was working 24 hours a day.
How about that? Huh. So this got you to the point where you were able to save some money, get some security, and hopefully get some insurance, right? Just to get yourself back on track to some kind of stability.
And to get the hell out of Florida.
Okay, so this was in Florida. Okay, so you like, I got to get up out of here. Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have a car. I had nothing of my own. I didn't have a GED.
I forgot about the driver's license part too. Oh, okay. You were making it. You were like, look, I got this.
I was determined. I was pulling stunts like that when I was 15.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody else was going to take care of me. I had to do it.
Oh my God, this is going to resonate with so many people. I'm telling you. So many people. I appreciate your bravery for this and your vulnerability and your candor.
I don't know if I've ever laughed this much telling my story. This
because
is fun.
We vibe.
Yeah.
We believe so much into everything that we do that we're approachable. It's good to know that there's others out there like us.
Absolutely.
For sure. So you have some statistics, or do you want to tell me about how you finish your story on how you got out from Florida?
Well, eventually I just moved. I went to California and I was there for 7 years before I moved again.
Okay.
And the last time I moved, it was the last time that I was trafficked.
Oh, girl, I thought we were done with the traffic. Okay.
Yeah, I was trafficked 3 separate times. The last time I was 31 years old.
Wow.
So we think of it only happening to young kids and stuff. Yeah. Only 1/4 of all victims are under the age of 18. The oldest person in recent years to be pulled out of trafficking just here in the state of Colorado was in her 70s. I got that straight from an FBI agent. The youngest was 3 months old. If you're only talking about children, the average ages of kids being trafficked are between 12 and 14 for girls, 10 and 12 for boys.
Boys at a younger age?
And it's 49% estimated to be boys and men being trafficked worldwide. That's almost half. That's pretty much evenly split.
Yeah. Yeah.
We think of it only being girls, right?
Yeah.
And we think of it as being girls that are snatched off the streets by greasy weirdos in windowless vans.
Right.
Kidnapping scenarios make up less than 1% of all human trafficking cases.
Man, there's not enough information out there that's disseminated on this at all.
And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I hold human trafficking Q&A sessions. I've got a human trafficking truth versus myth video that's up on YouTube right now. I'm doing what I can to try and break these myths down, but people aren't wanting to listen because they've already got the idea in their head that they know exactly what it is. I have been called a liar because my story doesn't look like what it looks like in movies. I won't name the movie. There was a movie that came out last year that took all of these false information myths and balled them all up one and threw up on the silver screen to make people like me look like a liar.
But this wasn't a documentary, right?
It was supposedly a version of a documentary. It was a fictionalized version of a true story, so they said. It was about one particular man who started an anti-trafficking organization. Well, the anti-trafficking organization and this guy split ways right before this movie came out because they knew this wasn't going to be good for them. Then this guy went down for sexual harassment and sexual assault on women and girls.
Oh my God.
There's so many lies when it comes to trafficking, when it comes to people who are doing the work, when it comes to the organizations and the things that they want everyone to believe.
Yeah. Oh, honey, I'm Black, so I already know what you're talking about. We deal with that all day.
Yep.
That's why we laughing right now. We deal with the same or similar situations. It's important to partner with folks that are on those similar missions because we can make a big change.
Absolutely.
Really
All these preconceived ideas, they just get so stupid. They get ridiculous.
God. So in this last trafficking, I want to finish this one before I end because this is just mind-blowing to me. What happened?
So when I moved to California when I was like 24, that's when internet dating really became a big thing and everybody was getting on all these internet websites and stuff with the internet dating. And I met a guy who lived really far away and we decided that we weren't ever going to actually have a physical relationship because of the distance. But he was somebody I felt like was safe and I could talk to. And he told me everything about his life and I met his sister and his parents and his sister's husband and his own little girl, all of them through Skype back when Skype was the thing. And we all hung out. You know, they would have breakfast while I was having dinner. We would eat meals together. We would have full conversations and hang out and just spend time together. Even though it was long distance, we could see each other's faces. We knew each other were real. Yeah. And over a period of 7 years, eventually he came to visit me. I went to go and visit him. And we decided that we were in love. And he asked me to get a fiancé visa to move to Scotland to go and be with him. Right. Wow. The land of kings and castles and romance and beautiful accents and rolling hills and history. Yeah. I'm a huge history buff. Oh my gosh. I could not wait to go. So I quit my job. I had during that time gotten myself a GED. Okay. Still no college education. Busted open a huge embezzlement ring and became the director of public safety and security for 6 different properties in LA County. Got an $11,000 a year raise. Got raises for all of my employees. I busted my butt, dude.
Yeah.
I worked so hard. I paid off my own car. I had a driver's license, of course, at that point. I had my own place. I even had a cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had everything. I had everything that I ever wanted that nobody else knew how to get for me. Huh. I went to Scotland to go be with this man. It took him 7 years to get me there. It took him 7 days to start trafficking me.
Okay. Did you see the family when you got there that he was parading on Skype? They was in on it too?
Yeah. Nope. They knew nothing of it. And if they ever found out anything about it, if I complained about him in any way, if I said anything negative about him whatsoever, or anything that he perceived to be negative, even if it wasn't, I was deprived of food. I was deprived of sleep. And at one point, I was waterboarded. To this day, I can't stand to have water splashed in my face, and I cannot watch somebody else being waterboarded in a movie or on TV.
Oh my gosh.
My husband is smart enough that he fast forward through that part.
Yeah.
He had my driver's license. He had my passport, my debit card. I didn't have a credit card. I gave up all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He had everything. And I couldn't get out of there on my own. And I couldn't go to the police to ask for help because he was the police.
Girl.
He had been a cop for years. He'd been a police officer before I ever met him. Some of the people that he was bringing to the house, because that's how this was done, were other police officers. They were judges. They were barristers, lawyers.
Well, you know what? I don't know why I'm acting like I'm so surprised because this has been like a known thing.
Everybody's dirty.
Yes. Yes.
I can't even say that it's like cops are dirty because I've known some really, really good ones too. I say it's similar to living in a high-rise apartment building. One neighbor on one side of you might be the nicest guy in the world and he's going to invite you over for barbecues every weekend. He's going to keep an eye on your place and feed your animals when you're on vacation. But the guy next door on the other side beats his wife every night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You never know. And you cannot judge somebody based on their occupation alone.
God.
Apparently, you also can't judge somebody based on 7 years of knowing them.
No. Meeting their family and all that other stuff. Man, that's a good message to y'all check. So how did he... Wow. When you don't have identification, how'd you get out? I don't know what to... How long were you there first?
I was there for 152 days.
Oh,
5 months.
Counted. Okay.
I did. I have that tendency to do things with things that are life-changing specifically. So I was in Scotland for 152 days. Afterwards, I became a flight attendant. I did that for 2 years, 3 months, 28 days. Not that I was counting. But the truth is that I didn't count it while I was doing it. I counted it afterward.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to know, how long did this last? It was the same thing with Scotland. Once I got out of there, I want to know, how long was I there? How long did I put up with this? How long did it take for me to lose that 78 pounds through food deprivation, starvation, through being sick?
Yeah.
How long did I survive? It was 152 days, and I nearly didn't survive. At one point, I tried to leave. I had conned him into giving me back my debit card. I bought an emergency flight out, and the abuse continued. It was so severe, I was in the hospital with a kidney infection that nearly killed me when that flight took off. It was a non-refundable. I had nothing left, no money. Next time I almost died, it was by my own hand, and a 4-year-old child stopped me. Showed up at exactly the right time.
It was his child, or?
No, his was 12 by then.
So who was this child?
A child I will never know the name.
Wow. Just random.
Yep. It was a kid that showed up at the train tracks when I was ready to throw myself in front of them. He and his father showed up. I had been begging all day just to have somebody just see me, just to look at me, just see me.
Yeah.
Nobody would look at me. Everybody that would glance in my direction would immediately look away and act like it's not my circus, not my monkeys.
Yeah.
It's not my problem. Somebody else can deal with that. I don't want to deal with somebody crying. And yet again, it went back to my mother telling me, don't you know how ugly you are when you cry? Nobody wants to be around that.
God. That's crazy. It's also beautiful.
That little boy was an angel.
Oh, man.
He was 4. That was 2011.
That's impressive.
He's now 17 years old. He's probably going through stuff of his own, because we all do at 17.
Yeah, yeah.
And he has no idea he saved someone's life.
Yeah. In that moment, did you feel what you're feeling now? Did you feel, okay, Amanda, let's get it together and get out?
I didn't know what I was feeling right then.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I surprised myself that I was running back to what I called my prison, was his home. And I was happy about it. And I was jumping up and shouting, and I was filled with excitement because I knew that if I was going to be kept alive in that moment, in that the most dark moment of my entire life, as dark as it had always been, if I was going to be kept alive right then, my life meant something to someone. And it was going to mean more than that to me. I had hope.
I like that.
So I started working on him like right away. I knew that he would know what trauma bonding is. This is something that we used to call Stockholm Syndrome, and I'm old, so I still call it Stockholm Syndrome. I have to catch myself.
Okay.
But I knew that he was going to know about what that was too. But I knew if I worked hard enough at it, I could convince him anyway. And I started that day. I stopped complaining about anything. I stopped frowning. I had a very conscious smile at all times. I looked like a Stepford wife. I was constantly smiling, always looking presentable, being happy, making sure all the chores are done, cooking and cleaning and doing the laundry, and everything was perfect. And I became that person. And I convinced him that I was so madly in love with him. Then a couple of months later, when I sat him down, I said, my fiance visa was only good for about 6 months, and we didn't get married on the day that we were supposed to. And that's okay. Please don't tell me you're going to get married to me now. That's okay. But, I could stay here. But if I stay here past that date and they find out, I could be kicked out. And according to UK law, I would never be allowed back in the country. And you could lose your job as a police officer. But if you send me back to Los Angeles, I could probably find friends that I could stay with for 6 months. And then I could come back, and I would be back in time for Christmas. And wouldn't it be wonderful to be our first Christmas together? And he fell for the whole pack of lies.
Wow.
He bought me a round trip flight to get me back to California and then back to Scotland in time for Christmas. I left there. The date will always be important to me, not just for historical significance, but for my own significance. I left there on June 19th, 2011. That was my day of freedom.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
At 32.
I was 31.
You were still 31?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my birthday's really late in the year. And you would think...
Well, I'm telling you right now, anybody out there that's listening, if you feel like it ain't just, you just ain't, it's never over. It's never over.
It's never over. It's never over. it really wasn't even over yet for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you end up in a domestic violence relationship or human trafficking relationship, which has a lot of roots in domestic violence, the most dangerous point in time for somebody is when they leave. Because that person, the way they've already treated you, the way you've allowed them to treat you, the way you have been stuck in this horribly abusive relationship, you're not a human to them. You're a possession. And you've just taken away their favorite toy. He hunted me. He came to the U.S. looking for me. Saw him banging on the neighbor's door because he had my address off by one number.
Wow.
Scared me half to death. When he couldn't find me, he decided he was going to do everything he could to destroy my life anyway. So he would take all of these photos and videos that he had taken of me during the trafficking, and he started sending them to people. First, it was my boss, a guy that I had known for 14 years, completely destroyed that friendship, and I couldn't work for him anymore. I walked away that day. It was done.
Oh my God.
Then he started sending them to friends. He started leaving it in emails, an email address, by the way, he made up specifically for this purpose, and said, I wouldn't want this in my life, would you? I wouldn't want to date something like this, would you? I was not a somebody like this. I was a something like this. I kept on trying to run away from my problems. My roommate at the time was somebody that I had considered my very best friend. She got a hold of this apparently at some point, and she decided she couldn't understand how something like this would happen without consent. So she started telling people that I had been a high-priced call girl. What? I was so hurt. Absolutely devastated. I lost all of my friends. Eventually, I lost my jobs. I lost my place to live. I lost, for a little while, my will to live. I had nothing left. Eventually, when I moved out here to Colorado, it was to start over completely. And I started really getting roots under me. I'd just gotten a nice big promotion at work. I was now making more than I had ever made before. I was doing really well. I was in salary. I was given responsibility. I was praised for my work. And they found out I was a survivor of human trafficking. And they fired me, saying that I seemed unhappy after he had released all of this stuff on a pornography website. He made me famous overnight.
Golly.
That was in 2019. That was 8 years later. And this man was still hunting me.
There was nothing you could do to prevent him from doing that?
Nope. Even now, we are still in the infancy of revenge porn laws. That really wasn't a thing back then. And even if it had been a thing back then, how do you prosecute somebody in another country?
Right.
They don't have the same laws. They don't have the same requirements.
No, they don't.
So that was when I decided, because he had included all of my social media details and personal contact information in these pornography websites, that if people are going to be finding me anyway, they might as well know why. And if they're going to know me, they're sure as hell going to know him.
Yeah.
And I started speaking up. I was so quiet at first. Oh my gosh, I had the voice of a mouse. I was super shy, quiet, reserved. I didn't want people to really know what had happened, but at the same time, I kind of did, because I knew they were going to be finding me anyway. And if I didn't say something, they were going to think all of these horrible things about me. And they were going to think I was some kind of a pornography star. And this was all of my own idea. And that's what I said. Damn it, no.
Yeah.
No. I got a law firm in New York City to help try to fight all this stuff coming down off pornography websites, thankfully, because of an anti-trafficking organization. A different anti-trafficking organization paired me up with a therapist who, number one, I didn't trust because of my childhood experience, and number two, was terrible, and I traumatized her so much she left the industry forever.
Wow.
I had to take all that on my own shoulders for a little while until I realized that it wasn't my fault. She didn't know what she was getting into.
Yeah.
So they paired me up with another therapist, and I went into her, and the first thing out of my mouth was, I don't trust you. This is what happened when I was younger. I need you to know that right up front. I don't trust you. I'm not likely going to trust you. Number two, I'm not looking for a Band-Aid. I'm looking for a shovel. Don't start coming at me with prescription medications. I've been there. I've done that. And number three, I'm not some fragile porcelain doll, so don't treat me like I was going to break. If I was going to break, I'd have done it a long time ago and better have tried.
Wow. Okay. So the standard has been set, ma'am.
And that was exactly what it was. I told her what I needed and why I needed it, and she was all about it. She said, okay, glad to know these things about you. Thank you very much. A year and a half into my therapy is when I wrote my autobiography. I wrote the entire thing, which is 300 pages, in the month of December of 2020, while working 2 full-time jobs. Don't tell me it can't be done.
Yeah. Yeah, truth.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Some-
In 1 month?
In 1 month. And it was published, it officially came out on July 19th of 2021, so my 10-year anniversary of freedom. And the next month is when I met the man that's now my husband.
How did you even trust men after this? Like, what drew you to him? Did you vet him? Like, did you go through, like what happened?
I had to keep all things in perspective. I had to understand that while it was the men who were trafficking me in most cases, remember in the second case, it was a man and a young girl.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't always just men that were abusing me. Women paid to rape me too.
Oh, you left that out. Oh.
I don't typically talk about the people who were the purchasers. And there's a good reason for that too. Everybody wants to know, where's the list? Where's the list? You know the list I'm talking about. Why aren't we seeing the list? Yeah. Well, it's because the list is compiled of names who were purchasers of sex, and those people will receive an $80 to $120 fine, depending on what state they're in, equivalent to the fine that you receive for driving over the limit line at a red light. Until the laws change, these people aren't going to be paying for their actions. That's how it works. That's the name of the game. There's also a statute of limitations that says something like the incident for an adult must have had happened within the past 18 months to be able to prosecute. So the reason they were holding on to that list of names is, number one, they didn't want a whole bunch of vigilante justice, people going out there taking justice in their own hands. Yeah. And number two, the longer they held on to it, the more people couldn't be prosecuted because of the statute of limitations. They don't want to bog down the legal system with all this crap where everybody's just going to be paying a fine of $120. That's chump change.
I'm telling you, the priorities are just, I mean, seriously, we're more focused on abortion than we are on human trafficking. Who puts a statute of limitation on rape when you underfund counseling and the departments who investigate that and all these other things? It's ridiculous.
And you want to talk about limitations. The average lifespan of a person in trafficking is only 7 years. At the end of 7 years, they're usually dead. Sometimes by suicide, sometimes drug overdose, sometimes they're beaten to death. They're often murdered and dumped. Who's going to care? This person doesn't have any ties to anybody else. This is going to be another Jane Doe in the mortuary. Who's going to care?
Oh my God.
It's a dark, dark world out there. Less than 2% of all victims survive.
The statistics are real, folks. I don't even know what to say. And these are for people who are coming forward and reporting it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So there is still a gap, and the number could be a lot lower than that.
And because of a lot of the myths and stuff that are so pervasive in the world of trafficking, a lot of people that are being trafficked don't even realize it. I mean, I was sitting at a conference in the front row in 2018 when I realized that what I went through was called trafficking because somebody else defined it for me. Every time I stand on stage and I talk about what human trafficking actually is, what it actually looks like, afterwards somebody always approaches me and says, I didn't realize what I went through was called trafficking. I have lost count of how many times I've heard that sentence.
Well, do they think that is because they feel like, oh, I chose, like I went into this willingly, that I wasn't like their definition of it was like they had to have been kidnapped and then forced into these things.
It is a lot of that. It's also a lot of people that were trafficked by their parents, their moms and dads. And this is a huge percentage as well. The majority of child trafficking is done by somebody in the immediate family, parents, grandparents, something like that, aunts, uncles, sometimes extended family beyond that. That's where the majority of child trafficking comes from. One or more complicit parents.
You're going to have me side-eyeing parents.
Yeah, you should.
I don't know.
You should.
Yeah.
I grew up in this area where everybody was talking about stranger danger. It's not the strangers that are so dangerous.
Yeah.
It's a small percentage of dangerous strangers. The majority of danger comes from within the own home.
That's crazy. I'm glad you survived.
Thank you. Me too. My life is a miracle, and I figure if I'm going to keep having it, I might as well use it to the betterment of other people.
Absolutely.
If something exists, it needs to have a positive purpose too.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie to you. You bring the whole concept of the podcast, Moving with Meaning, to life. You really do. Because everything that you are doing has meaning. Everything that you've gone through, the negative pieces in your life, it goes to your fortitude. It's just the fight that's within you. It goes to you beating the odds, really, and giving back. because you give a damn. Not because you're going to profit off of it, not because of this. It's like, this is a selfless act that I got to do. If things are going to change to prevent this from happening to any one more person, to inform additional people, and just to keep the information going. It's about awareness and information. It really is. And once that gets out there, then things will start to change. I really do believe that.
I hope so.
So, Amanda, are you ready to give us your golden nuggets and add that ketchup just to recap?
I would say probably my favorite golden nugget is we've all grown up hearing this phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. There's even songs by that title, but it's a lie. The person who came up with this phrase was named Friedrich Nietzsche. He died in an insane asylum in the 1800s. Look it up if you don't believe me. The man was obviously not well in the head. He obviously had his own issues. It's okay. We can let that one go now. The truth is, the strength was already in you. It is not the past. It is not the pain. It is not the trauma. It is not the abusers. It is not the bruises that gave you strength. No, they gave you PTSD. You gave you strength. You got you through this. And you can get you through the next step too. And the reason it's so difficult to ask for help is not because it's a weakness. What's difficult to do? The things that take a lot of strength.
Okay. From the pulpit to the podcast is what I'm hearing right about now. The resilient Amanda. Thank you so much for coming on here and just dropping gems and bombs and wiles of wisdom. That's the episode today. I know this conversation was quite candid, vulnerable, and for many, may take a few pauses to complete the entire episode. Do you feel those who you looked up to failed you the most? To the point where you felt the weight of the world on your shoulders, that you went looking for some relief in whatever form and at whatever risk it took? Yeah, I've been there too. We all have a story, and that's why I appreciate Amanda for sharing her personal story and giving depth into the seriousness of the effects, survival rate, and unaddressed trauma that still remains for most. I hope Amanda's story has found its way to you and has equipped you with some topics and tips for reaching those looking for help, whomever they may be. You heard of be the change? Well, switch that up and be the blessing. Even if you feel that you have put all the safeguards in place and feel you are as independent as they come, share your thoughts and moves you've been making. I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Amanda, why don't you go ahead and remind the people who you are, where they can find your resources, or reach out to you?
My name is Amanda Blackwood. My website is growthfromdarkness.com, because that's what we do. And if you really want to get a hold of me, you can do it using the contact form on my website, or reach out to me on Facebook, because if I wasn't on Facebook as much as I was, I'd probably write more than 2 books a year.
Yep. Always dropping the comment. Look, girl, you're good. You're good. You're good. I'll make sure to include all of Amanda's resources and connections on the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithmeaning.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Meaning, the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeaning82. Also connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My YouTube channel is up. Kindly run over there and have a look or two. Links are in the episode. Alrighty. I'm Krystal on Moving With Meaning, the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have